Okay, welcome. My name is Kimberly Kayler. I am president of AOE, and I'm pleased to be sitting down today with Russell Kofford. He's a marketing and business development consultant and the founder of TRD. A lot of experience in the AEC industry, and he has a lot of clients that touch other spaces as well. I had the pleasure of speaking with him about a month ago, and I learned quite a bit from him related to business development and the crazy world that we're living in right now. So I wanted to share his expertise and just sit down and have a conversation. So Russell, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, not a problem. I appreciated the conversation the first time as well. So
great. Well, welcome. So I'm going to dive right in. First question is, when we met, you talked about the importance of getting really good on camera, which I liked. And I remember, if we look back in the beginning days of the pandemic, there was a grace period that it was okay if you weren't good on camera. But now we do need to be good on camera, right? Go ahead and comment on that. And then also maybe, how does that trickle into the sales and business development role too?
Yeah, so it's almost not even being good on camera. It's being comfortable on camera.
Right.
You see yourself a lot, and that's hard because you want to stare at somebody else, or you want to stare over here, you want to read your notes or play on your phone or pick your nose. There's some very big faux pas you don't want to have, and that's just, you're meeting people remotely now, and you're meeting them in your office. At first you were meeting them in your bedroom, but you've had 15 months to figure out either the Zoom background or get an office or set up something. So, when you're doing business development in that realm, you need to have some sort of professionalism. You have to have some sort of level of comfort when talking on camera, and you got to have some self-awareness of what you're doing with your body at the same time, while not getting distracted. Or, we always look weird to ourselves, but we need to make sure that's comfortable as it comes across. And that's, important when you're meeting people and in meetings, but it's also important because the proposal process has an interview section half the time. And if you're not comfortable on camera with your team synergy is what the interview is all about. And if you don't have that comfort level and how to transition and how not to overtalk each other, how not to start looking around or have your kids come in, planning is important for meetings. And I think we've gotten past the cat judge video stage of the pandemic. Yeah, and we've moved into sort of a more professional. This should be a soft skill that's either learned or taught by any organization.
That really good point you made about, practicing with your team members on a Zoom call and the transition. I don't know if this is the same for you, but I know now when I'm actually on a conference call that doesn't have video with it, we tend to trip over each other. That nobody knows, because we're used to these visual cues that we've gotten good at the last year, or hopefully at least have gotten better at. And on the phone, they're a disaster, the few calls that I'm on. Any tips for how a firm would prepare for that Zoom interview, if you will? I would assume maybe just actually practice it, correct?
Dry runs.
Yeah.
Dry runs. And you don't need a lot of them. And what I usually tell my clients is, because we don't want to be scripted either. That's the other part. You don't want to be reading from a script. You don't want to be robotic. It does have to be authentic, the things we do. And so I usually do say the transitions. What we're going to do is, we're not going to talk about the bulk of your content. Everybody's a subject matter expert and can talk about their area of expertise. But it's when I need to hand that off to somebody else. What are the keywords? What is my closing line? What is my sentence? You don't want to be passing the mic every time to the next person, because that doesn't show team continuity. So, in that process, just having a plan, coming up with a high level script, putting your piece of paper, we'll just grab a piece of paper, behind your camera. So we're looking at it instead of looking down or looking over. Mm-hmm. And just some things like that. And then don't write all of it, just write the transitions or the keywords. We can all talk about what we know about. And that's why we're in the interview. That we've established a baseline of, you've got an expertise. Now let's be comfortable on camera, understand our content, and learn how to transition with our team members through practice.
So do you anticipate or see, I'm really asking for a prediction here, of the Zoom interview or the online interview staying in some cases, even if the world is coming back in person in areas?
I think yes and no. I really think nobody wants to do it on camera. The people that are being interviewed want to be in the room. They want to have some materials they can put up. Because of the digital mediums, the presentation mediums that we can use, I mean, that's going to be valuable because now instead of having a PowerPoint that's on a screen or laptop and there's technology set up, you can just click here, click, 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 and all of a sudden it's showing to the entire audience. But how do you do that while the PowerPoint's showing, how do you have your face communicating with the possible client? You just don't. And so I think the clients miss that, owners miss that. I think the AE firms that I work with, they miss that a lot too. It's just that face-to-face interaction, to be able to shake a hand or bump a fist now. Yeah, so I don't think, I mean, it might be for some purposes an avenue, an option, just because of schedules, or if you have to interview a big team and it's from multiple stakeholders across the country or across the world. Sure. Then you might see that. But as a general rule, I think as soon as we can, it'll go away.
Go back. Okay. So what about business development? That's one of the other things we talked about, and I was really interested. It's an area of your expertise, and you advise a lot of clients on it. In the early days of the pandemic, it was okay to maybe put your sales efforts, traditional means, on hold, and we all quickly learned that they had to go on. Talk to me about what folks have learned in the last year.
Yeah, I don't know that a lot of them have learned things. They're still on hold right now. And it's scary because we need to be actively engaging with our clients. And I think this pandemic has given us an opportunity to get out of the standard, sales call type thing. When you reach out to your clients, how many times you ask them to have coffee? You always want a touch point that's different than let's go get lunch or do you have work for me? The pandemic, hey, how are you doing? How's your family? How's your life? Is there anything we can do to help you? And you get to bring in that element of service with your clients. And I think that, if we had an opportunity to notify our clients of how we were going to operate during this pandemic, that's a great touch point, business development. You get a chance to reach out and tell people how good you are at your job and how proactive you are. That's always good. And then you get a second opportunity to follow up on them regularly about how they're doing. I mean, this is a tough time. It was especially tough last year. We're getting kind of used to it and more of a comfort level. We don't want to lose some of that, but early on you had a good opportunity to touch in with your favorite clients, your top 20, your top 100, and just get out there and make real connections with them and establish a good relationship and continue that relationship, because that's what business development is. Now, a year later, we need to still maintain that. Hey, are you still doing well? How can we help you? Are you going out in public? What's your mode of operating now? Where are you at? I mean, we have these opportunities to do business development through the pandemic channel, as it were. It's not inbound marketing, it's an outbound relationship driven opportunity to touch on your clients and show that you care and you want to work with them where they are, you want to meet them where they are, and you want to, generally check in on them. I think that's important.
So it's a really good point. I know that we struggled. I typically meet with all of our clients at the end of the year, talking about plans for the new year. And I really struggled in the fall with how was I going to recreate that experience. It typically was a dinner, maybe it was a sporting event, it was something like that. And we went for Zoom sessions. We tried to make them fun. And I was surprised at how fun they were. Just that human connection. It wasn't about business. It was just communicating on that human level. And it's a good reminder that we need to keep that going. And any suggestions for the sales call, the cold calling? Can that be done in this virtual environment? I've been asked that quite a bit, and I'm stumped as to a good answer for it.
There's no good answer. I mean, it is very hard, right? I mean, and you're not going to get a video call right away. So email becomes more important. And we talked about earlier about conversationalism during a video call. You have to establish that conversationalism during an email now. You don't get an opportunity to shake a hand or smile or, get those subtle cues. So how do you, and we've all fallen into this trap. What does that email mean? Are they mad? Are they angry? Are they being, passive aggressive? We've had it with our employers. We've had it with our clients. We've had it with our colleagues. So now we have to get good at, hey, my name is Russell. Here's what I do. I know I'm reaching out and you get 100,000 emails, but here's what I have. Sometimes it's picking up the phone and calling, but it's almost becoming a taboo to some extent, is to pick up the phone. I love it. I think anytime you want to talk to somebody, give them a call, but I like to preface it with a schedule email. Hey, I'd love to call you. When are you available? I know you're probably working at home, you're doing your laundry, you got your kids' stuff going on in the middle of the day, you've got school you're teaching, like what's a good time to call? But it should be a conversational approach to email and connecting and cold calling. We got to find leads somehow. I mean, and online content is getting flooded because that's the only way to talk. So, what do? You do some research on your company on the internet. You talk to the colleagues and the people around your targets, and then you reach out with an email and say, hey, my name is, and I'm interested because I think this. When's a good time to actually call and talk about that or hop on a Zoom call? And people are usually pretty good about that.
I think it's right. We've changed our societal norms where before, if you had somebody's office line, you just call them. And we've talked quite a bit about it in my firm that almost seems rude to do at this point, which is really fascinating. But we tend to ask permission and schedule, but that's probably okay. It's establishing that relationship and those boundaries too. So yeah. What about, when we do come back, those in-person meetings, is anything going to change? What is that going to look like?
I think, I'm just going to think here for a sec, but what's going to happen is you have, it's awkward. So I've been to some in-person meetings, and you meet people, especially, we got vaccination, not vaccination. We have, do we shake hands? Do we take off our masks? Are we having lunch? So, I mean, really it's, I think, being upfront about how you approach that. Hey, we're going to meet in person. We've established that, we've asked if they're comfortable. Do you want Zoom or in person? And they say in person. You say, okay, that's fantastic. What are our protocols? We don't have a set, like you said, societal norm. There's no norm right now. Are we doing fist bumps? Well, why are we doing elbow and fist bumps if we're sitting down and hugging at a table or eating next to each other? So having those conversations in advance of meeting them, what's your comfort level? Where do you want to be? Would you like to maintain 6 feet during this? Should we sit across the table from each other? Should we sit next to each other? Do we meet outside? And are you going to wear your mask? Should I wear mine? Should we shake hands? And ask that about it's a lot easier with the people So if you're meeting with multiple groups, you can actually ask the people that are meeting you there that hey, what's the comfort level of this person? Anything you can do in advance to make that interaction smoother, I think, is what we need to do in the interim. Moving forward, it'll be a lot easier. I think we're already establishing a little bit of a comfort level with in-person meetings, as evidenced by the increase in cases, as summer comes up. But yeah, just establishing the protocols in advance is going to be a big deal for the next 6 months to a year.
I think that's key. Just having that conversation beforehand and not making assumptions. It's quick, and I've heard this so many times already that quickly making things political, or I assume they view this way or that way or whatever. And we can't make assumptions about how somebody feels about something, or maybe what's mandated by their organization or encouraged as well. So what about the proposal process? Our industry is very busy still, which is wonderful. Are there RFPs hitting the street? What has changed in terms of the RFP process, if anything, that you've seen?
For my business specifically, I help people write RFPs. And a lot of people wanted to be in the office to do that. Let's sit down and have a meeting, a kickoff meeting. We're going to hash out our win themes and key differentiators and all these things. I mean, proposals are still coming out. In fact, because business development in the standard form has kind of gone away with the relationship building to some extent, leads and RFP chasing, I mean, that's where people are putting most of their effort. So there's a lot of people proposing. Where there was 10 before, there's 22 now. But during the process, it's gone digital. And so you have to get people together in a group setting, working in a similar document, trying to establish, that same kind of free form thinking that gets you the creative thinking, that gets you a competitive advantage on your RFP. And so that's been a weird transition for a lot of firms. And I do things like Google Docs, where you can be in the same document at the same time, all looking, and you're having this conversation on Zoom with people with their faces, not blanked out, zeroed, RK on my screen. Let's talk about this, and let's talk about what we have. And then let's have that on the screen as well. And this is the one situation where you're in these meetings where it's okay to turn and work while you're talking.
Sure. Be collaborative. Yeah.
Be collaborative, get working. This is a work session. It's not a meeting. And so as long as you turn those proposal meetings into work sessions where everybody's working together and you've got these digital tools, again, I've tried a couple of them. I hate to say Google, I'm not promoting anybody, but the Google Sheets is working pretty well for collaboration. You go in and you can type at the same time. You can see, I'm working with the principal of X engineering firm. I can see him filling in the data he needs at the same time we're talking about that. And it makes it actually flow a little better, because before you'd go to these meetings, you'd listen and talk, and then you'd go back and do the work. And sometimes that transitioned well, and sometimes that didn't. Well,
Sure.
now it transitions, it happens instantaneously almost. And I found a nice balance most of the time between paying attention in the meeting and being creative and getting the work done at the same time. And I think that's important, because if people are, sitting on their phones doing stuff or not paying attention, it just kills the process.
So it sounds like there are some silver linings. Have you seen any other silver linings in the last 15 or so months?
I mean, the instantaneous adoption of telecommunications, right? We now are able to work. I'm talking to you. You're on the East Coast, or the Central. You're Central, right?
Central, yeah.
Central, and I'm on the West Coast,
Yeah.
and we're sitting here chatting together, as if we're in the same room. I mean, that's an amazing.
We met in this medium too, so.
And we met in this meeting. I mean, it was a networking issue, right? I talked to somebody, I don't know where Garrett was, but he's in Texas. That's right. He's in Texas. He talked to you. He talked to me. He connected us. We met via email. We said, hey, this is a good idea. We connect on LinkedIn. And I think LinkedIn is a fantastic tool. It's your new business card. So definitely want to pass those out. The old rule was, if you hadn't talked to somebody in person, you can't be their LinkedIn friend. And I say, no, you have to have a reason to connect with them. I think, you don't want to spam everybody. You have to have a reason. We talked about that as well.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I want to keep this my network of good people. So I want to make sure they're good people. So I think that's been a benefit, is just, we've been able to talk in distances. And I don't think I would have, unless I went to World of Concrete, we never would have run into each other, and it'd be walking paths that ended together. Now we have these tin cans with strings all over the world that we can talk through and make networking connections. And I think that's a huge benefit.
That's true. The barriers have gone down a step. I mean, to your point, we still need to make sure you keep professionalism in there. You need to be relevant, so people don't feel spammed or bothered or harassed in any way. But there is more of an opening for those connections. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, I always said that, I live in Vancouver. A lot of my clients are in Washington, and we're on this very edge of the border of Portland. Well, that river was a wall for a long time. You didn't ever want to cross. It was 10 miles. So, I could go 20 miles north and I get better response from my clients than I would going 10 miles south across that river to a different state. And now it's really, that's gone away quite a bit, because you don't have to just run into a meeting or drive over to a meeting to get there. People are more comfortable saying, hey, I can work with this consultant because we collaborate well online. They have a good online presence. Their deliverables are great. They're still getting the same level of service to me. And distance and location doesn't matter nearly as much.
I'm wondering if we'll see that show up in proposals in the future too, where before you wanted the local firm, because we want them to be able to show up in our office when we have a problem. Any thoughts on that? We've proven that we can very effectively work, but we do still like local. So.
Yep, and both are good. I mean, you're going to see it. You're going to go get some local people want to meet, and that's going to be an aspect. And having a local office helps, but having subject matter experts in different parts of the country, bringing them onto your team is not going to be a deal killer. Or and I think even in your proposals, this is something I told people early on. I said, you got to have your COVID-19 plan. What happens if somebody gets sick? I mean, that needs to go in your proposal. How are you going to run your meetings? The big room philosophy, where you bring in the whiteboards and the pads and you put everybody in a big room. It still works. It's just transition to a digital medium, and you have to espouse that in your proposals. Moving forward, yes, you can do that as long as you have a plan, and a very specific plan. A lot of times we just kind of say, yeah, we'll do it. And that doesn't engender trust with your owners. Yeah, we'll do it is great. But have some specificity around it. Take the time to make an intentional telecommunications process for your clients. How are you going to run meetings? How are you going to engage the owner? How are you going to take the burden off them for running meetings? They want to know that you're going to set it up. You're going to provide the forum. You're going to do the action items and the minutes. And if you can show that in your proposal, hopefully there's room. It's not a 10-page limit or something, but if you have that plan fleshed out, I think that's an advantage, whether you're local or far away. Just have the specifics of how you're going to run that meeting, whether it's digital or in person, and how they're going to go together. A lot of board meetings, if you're doing board level planning and that's your proposal, as you're proposing on something like that, you're not sitting at a U-shaped table. You used to call out, we're going to get conference room with a U-shaped table. We're going to have this type of medium. We're going to have a projector. That's how we're going to facilitate this meeting. Well, that facilitation has changed. Some people are going to be there on a laptop. Some people are going to be there on a, and how are we going to bring those people into the room if they can't get there or they're not comfortable? And so just having a plan in your proposals, I think, helps a lot.
Fantastic. Well, I was peeking at my notes to make sure I got this right, but I see it's actually on your shirt, so I didn't need to do that. I'd love for you to comment on do more good.
Yeah.
So, I know that's the mantra and theme for your organization. If you want to share a little bit about that, I think it's a nice way for us to wrap up our conversation.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because that the reason I'm in business, my reason for being is to do more good. I want to help organizations do better. The do more good philosophy just came out of, three things, and it's in my email signature even. I want to share it with everybody. It's a calling for me, right? But it means to do better in your work, in your life, and it means to do more good than bad. It means to treat your clients and everybody. You're not always going to make good decisions, and you're not always going to do the right thing, but to always be mindful of that and be moving forward in your lives and doing more good for people and in your little ecosystems. We all have to live in these and in our macro ecosystems where, people have gotten, I don't want to say focused on dollars. I always call business development is not a sales activity, it's a service activity. And we've lost sight of that a little bit. And I think helping small organizations that want to do really good things and can't get ahead, I can help them do that. Bigger organizations turning those big ships so that they're not focused on how many dollars per hour I can get out of everything, but how are we taking care of our people? How are we sharing with them? How are we sharing with our employees? And how are we also using that to deliver better service to our clients and owners? I think it encompasses everything. So I always tell people, I find myself saying, anytime somebody says do more, oh yeah, we want to do more. And good. It stops them in their track. I go, yeah, do more good. Sorry.
More good. Well, and it's a nice way to, as we move forward out of the pandemic into whatever our new normal is. And I know we're all tired of that saying, and it's shifted and changed too. But to your point, the human element, the engagement element, the connections has to come out of how we're doing business as a result of this. It's another silver lining of the pandemic.
Yeah, it's not a buzzword. It's not, safety used to be the buzzword. Now we're talking about something. Well, now it's how you treat your people. And if we don't start recognizing, and that's a diversity, there's diversity, equity, and inclusion conversations. Yep. There's also just corporate social responsibility, environmental sustainability. I mean, all these things go together and they're buzzwords. Well, we have to start living it. And we live it from the employee level to management, to ownership, to board level, to how we deliver service to our clients. And, if we can keep, however you want to say it, I say it, do more good, but however you want to say it, we need to keep that as a mission for all of our companies. And I think that's going to be a good selling point. Hey, put a business case to it. It's a selling point. We do good business. We want to do good business.
Fantastic. Well, I've enjoyed our conversation. I'll be sure to share with our audience your website and contact information. And again, I highly encourage everyone to consider Russell as an expert. I'm thrilled. He's now my go-to expert related to business development and sales. And so happy to have been connected with him. Another silver lining in this world we live in right now. So Russell, thanks for your time.
Agreed. Thank you, Kimberly. It was fantastic.
Thank you.